Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video I have my own personal little wish list for World of Warcraft. And basically, this is a kind of a concept that's come up lately, kind of wishing for things, right? So I believe Asmongold did a video or a stream talking about his wish list for Classic Fresh, and then with all these changes coming out for 9.1.5, people were like, "Wow, like." Blizzard's just granting all these wishes. I know Tally and Avatil did like a funny thing about granting wishes regarding this, and I think this is just kind of a cool way to frame it. A lot of times we frame things as let's save WoW, let's fix WoW, a manifesto of fixing WoW. But I kind of like the idea of like a wish list. It's a little bit more positive, a little bit more fun. So I'm gonna go through. I believe I have like 5 or 6 things, like topics or whatever, that would be on my personal wish list to make the game more fun, make the game better in different ways, and things I think that they can actually implement without it being too much of an issue. So let's go ahead and get started. My number one wish for World of Warcraft is just more class fantasy. So I'm not even that huge into class fantasy personally, but I'm talking things, a lot of things that we actually had from Legion, right? There's so much class fantasy in Legion, which is I think why it was so beloved, despite some of the systems in Legion actually being quite awful, especially until the very end of the expansion. How kind of the meme is, they fixed the game at the end of the expansion. Other than that, though, they had tons of class fantasy. So, class weapons, that would be weapon appearances, right? So, in Legion, those are tied to the Mage Tower. I like that idea. I like the idea of tying it to solo content, class fantasy content, where you're doing something specifically with your class to kind of unlock something, making sure you know all your abilities, using them in a good order. Things like that. That even comes into play in something modern like Torghast, for sure. But you would obviously make this more in the Legion terms of following a storyline that specifically depicts your class or whatever. So the idea of class weapons is great. Class mounts. So we had the order hall mounts in Legion as well. The class order halls themselves. So going back to your order hall or just going back to your personal trainers in the cities and stuff like that. I can expand on that a little bit as well, and just any kind of class fantasy regarding that. So why do I think this is so important is it's honestly just really good content for the game. So let's say like you could literally have a patch. So let's say 10.1, right? Let's just pick a random patch in the future. 10.1, if it introduced these unlockable weapon skins, these order hall mounts, and maybe just something to do with your like building up your order hall maybe throughout the entire expansion. But like that's like a ton of content to do. As a creator, it's obviously really good because it's like, oh, here's how to unlock this weapon, here's how to unlock this mount, here's all the secrets in your order hall. And like as a content creator, that's really really good, obviously. But as a player, it's tons of stuff to do as well that we don't really have most of the time in the game. And it's for really no reason. I mean, they say they want to have a good thing to unlock with it, and I understand that. Like, you don't make a mage tower cool thing without having really cool stuff to unlock. But I think there's tons of skins you could add in the game, like weapon skins, that are actually quite cool. And weapons are one of the easier things to make cool, in my opinion. Weapons and shields and stuff. So, I think they're definitely missing out by not doing this, and I think it's just kind of a slam dunk home run thing that they could put into the game pretty easily. So, yeah, that's my number one thing, is just kind of class fantasy. I did want to expand on order halls a little bit. So we don't have to reuse the order hall. Like the Pally order hall, for example, was really good. Some of them were less good. The Mage order hall I felt was really good as well. But the idea of just being that it's class fantasy with the order hall, so you're going back and like if there's a new spell introduced in an expansion, you actually learn the spell from a trainer, or the trainer sends you out on a quest to teach you the spell. Things like that. Now, that's not a ton of content by any means. You're probably talking like 5 to 10 spells at the very most. But it is kind of just cool. You go through, you do a quest for it, you unlock it. It just helps you feel like you learn it, or that it's just immersing yourself more into your class. I've always really liked that stuff. It's not super important by any means, but it's just something that's that it just kind of means a lot to me, I guess, as someone who typically tries to get into their class at least. So that's my number one wish is class fantasy stuff. Number two is to infuse puzzles and secrets more into the game, make it like a priority. So in this expansion, obviously we've had a lot of issues with delays and COVID and all that kind of stuff. So there hasn't been a ton of secrets in the game. There's been some like really small ones like Blanky and stuff like that. That's not really a secret. If you follow the secret community, that's just kind of just something that they put in the game that is kind of easy for everyone to figure out and find. But I would like to see them infuse puzzles and secrets more into the game. And so the only real secret we've had in Shadowlands so far is the Slime Serpent mount by soloing Heroic Plaguefall. You could unlock that mount. And that's really cool. These secrets, any secret's good. I think what they should probably aim for is like one big secret per patch. So 9.0, 9.1, 9.2, 9.3. Or it could be the 0.5 of those, obviously. But like one big secret per patch is probably what they should be aiming for. Now, these are not as beloved as some things, unfortunately. But they are just really, really cool. And like there's multiples of these that just made my month, made my gaming month or whatever, just doing these secrets, unlocking these mounts and stuff like that. So as far as infusing them into the game, I think perhaps the best way to do this is just to probably via mounts or pets or something like that. But the secrets have to be. I would still like to see like the really advanced meta secrets is too sprinkled in, right? Let's do like the Jennifer secret and stuff like that, or Hive Mind, or these Lucid Dream and these big old secrets. I'd still like to see these really advanced ones, but I think what I'm talking about here is adding ones in that like anyone can kind of figure out with enough time or whatever. And yeah, they might watch a video on how to do it or do it faster or whatever, but they don't need to. They could just spend a lot of time doing it, reading the clues, have the clues be somewhat obvious. Like a lot of times in the secrets, you'll have a dialogue with somebody, and that dialogue will give you the next hint or whatever. Maybe have that hint like pop up on the screen instead of just being in text or something, to be like, hey, you need to go check this out. And I think this is a very underrated part of the game, because there's just not enough of them, frankly. And a lot of times, by the time someone gets around to it, they're just either paying for a carry for the mount or whatever. But this would be a huge thing for me. Like I said, one per patch I think would be fine. That'd be like about one every 6 months on like a normal scale. Plus with maybe like some like a meta one sprinkled in, like a really big cool one sprinkled in every once in a while as well. But I definitely would love to see that as a wish of having more puzzles and secrets into the game. Number 3, I have changed the way we look at gearing. So this is a bit of a big thought, I guess. But best in slot to me should be more about the time taken to achieve, more than where the actual piece of gear comes from. So right now, obviously, like the best way to get raiding gear is to raid. The best way to get, honestly, Mythic Plus gear is pretty much to raid, and the best way to get PvP gear is to PvP. And like everything seems to be really worried and tied about like, well, you need to do this, you need to do that, and then you'll get your gear and whatever. But I think what a lesson we could learn is not to like make old raids matter. Like we shouldn't be going back to Molten Core and get a weapon that scales up to Shadowlands levels, right? That's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is if you get your best in slot weapon, or whatever's going to be your like personal best in slot weapon, because it's just what you're going to achieve for any given season or tier or whatever. If you get that from crafting, like if you craft that yourself, then that's great. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, as long as it takes the prerequisite time. So long as it takes like a month to build up the materials to craft it or whatever, however long it would take you normally to get like a really good weapon from the raid, let's say. So if you get your best in slot weapon from crafting, great. If you get your best in slot trinket from like a time walking, so we're having the Legion time walking come back, right? And with that will be Legion Mythic Plus. If you get your best in slot trinket from that time walking, I think that's fine too. Like it doesn't have to be from the current season content, in my opinion, to feel like you earned it, or feel like you have like the best stuff or whatever. Like I think you should just kind of like sprinkle it in from all types of content that you like, from all kinds of content that interests you. And like I said, the most important thing is just that you're not getting all the best in slot in week one. So you would have to make sure that it's scaled and, not scaled, but like balanced in some way to where you don't just, okay, I made my weapon week one. I also had this time walking going on, so I also got my best trinket week one. And, 2 weeks in, I have all my best in slot, because that's not really cool either. I think the scale is more like a month to 2 months for like really high end players, and then of course the entire 6, 7, 8 months for lesser high end players. But shoot for somewhere in that middle. So let's just say maybe like 3 months. 3 months, if you do all this different types of content, you can have like your best in slot. So you could have some craftable pieces, some time walking pieces, some pieces from maybe like a archaeology thing or something like that, right? Like, it doesn't matter to me where you get the stuff from, but I think we should just be able to work towards the stuff. And that would take a bit of a change in mindset, because the way things are currently, like, everyone calls it the big three, the Mythic Plus and rating and PvP. But I think with just a slight mind change there, we could have a lot more interesting way in gearing up and looking at best in slot. Coming up next, I have gearing and quality life achievements to be account wide for a more streamlined process. So this kind of goes along with gear a little bit, but it's more for your like alt and stuff, alt friendliness. So for example, KSM, in my opinion, should probably be account wide. Allow all your characters to gear up with Valor points. PvP rating should be account wide to allow gearing alts as well. You can still have like the Conquest and the Valor weekly cap, so you're not just like getting all your gear in 1 week, right? Because that's not really cool either. It's not really fair. Like you get KSM on one character, and then all 80 of your characters you just spam Valor points with and get full gear. So I'm not saying that. You could still have like these caps or whatever, these artificial caps that they put in. I think those are actually fine, and I think they'd be more fine if everything was completely unlocked for your alts as well. The reality is, yes, there is a difference between, let's say you unlock KSM as a DPS, and then you're playing a tank character on your alt, and then you get all this gear on your alt, and then you go in and maybe you don't know how to tank correctly. That can happen for sure, but the reality is, even if you have KSM's not hard to get by any means, but if you have KSM, you can do, like, if you DPS a plus 15, you can probably tank a plus 15. Yes, you'll have to do a little bit extra work or a little bit extra, gain a little bit extra knowledge, but there's not like this huge gap between it. And since we're only talking about that level, so like KSM, maybe cap it at 2100 PvP rating instead of like, the absolute max or whatever. But since we're not talking like doing like plus 25 keys here, and in this instance we probably shouldn't be talking about like 24 or 2600 rating or anything like that for PvP, but to have these certain thresholds that you can reach no matter what. And I think KSM is a good place for it. I think like 1800 or 2100 is a good place for it PvP wise. There's really no comp in rating other than maybe having some sort of a point thing that you could directly purchase gear for your alts from raid currency, and then maybe you'd have to have an achievement, a certain amount of bosses killed to buy certain pieces of gear, something like that. But there's all kinds of things you could go with that. Coming up next, I think I got 2 more wishes here. I'd like to re-emphasize the WoW holidays and things like the Dark Moon Fair. So this is one that kind of like a hill that I die on a lot. The fair is a piece of content in the game that has so much to do, but it's never really like highly marketed or pointed out. People will go there during like the beginning of a patch or something for like the rep bonus. So like Death's Advance rep, when that just came out in Korthia. People will go there to try to get this extra rep. People will go there at the beginning of patches or new patches that involve like leveling bonuses just to get the extra leveling and stuff. But the reality is there's so much to do there, and I think that it could be unlocked even more. There could obviously be more added to it as well. There's lots of cool items there already as well. I'm still working on getting the big rocket. My son more does it than me, my little kid. He can do a couple of the fair games, and he's been slowly building up his tickets. But yeah, I think that also in this same breath, there should be at least like one holiday or event a month that's like interesting to do. So things like Wintervale have been added and expanded over the years. Same with like the Hallows Eve. These are great examples of like good holidays, and rewards for these, in my opinion, should be like silly and fun. And at times, like the Halloween rewards at different time, like different expansions, they were actually like really, some of the stuff was actually like really good to use on like fresh alt and stuff. Like it's actually like usable gear as well. And I think that's fine too. That can be part of the way to gear, right? Like if you get the headless horseman's helm, um, like it could be like a really good item or something like that that you actually use in a raid, or you use in a Mythic Plus or something like that. Like it doesn't have to, it can be silly, fun, and usable in that way. To go back to the fair real quick though, I would like to see just like more ways to obtain tickets and stuff like that. Obviously, the items that already exist, you don't want to take away from the prestige of earning some of them because they cost quite a bit of tickets and it's hard to build them up. So you don't want to take away from the prestige of like the balloon mount or whatever. But perhaps there's just some way you could either increase the cost of tickets for those like legacy items to kind of keep them valuable, but either way, I would like to see you be able to get more tickets and just add more stuff there. I'd love to see even more there's tons of opportunities for transmog at the fair. Since there's a big profession thing there where you get +5 on your professions, I think there's all kinds of profession stuff that could be added to the fair. And the fair is just really this amalgam of content that is not being unlocked. And this would be a huge wish for me to just completely unlock the fair once a month, the first week. It would be great. Like, it'd be great just to go there and make content for a week because there's like interesting stuff to do there. So, like I said, there's already a lot of stuff to do there, but it's not even close to being fully unlocked. All right, for the last wish, this is not even one of my major things, but I know this is something that the community in general really, really, really wants overall. That's player housing. I put ish because I'm not a huge fan of player housing by any means. But one thing I did enjoy in Warlords and in BFA was like displaying like archaeology finds. You would put them up on like the mantle and stuff like that, and just in general like your garrison, like having the statues and stuff that would pop up. I actually did kind of like that kind of stuff, so I think it'd be cool to like have a stable, for example. So this is gonna have to be, let's be realistic here, this is gonna have to be simple. You're gonna have like, if you had player housing, you'd have like 3 choices of building, right? You wouldn't be able to like make your own Minecraft building or whatever. If they did that, that'd be great, I guess. But it's going to be like a template. So let's say you make one that looks like your garrison, kind of like your main garrison building. Well, one thing I think would be cool is to have like a stable outside of it where you can display a certain amount of your mounts. So however many, they deem is cool or good to display, whether that's 3 or 5 or 10 or whatever. And you can actually display some of your rarer mounts out there. Now, it would be a little bit weird because people wouldn't be like coming over to see your stuff all the time or anything like that. So it'd be mostly for yourself, right? You'd just be like, hey, these are my cool ass mounts that I have right here and in my stable or whatever. And maybe there's some way you could like feed them or do something with them to make them fly like 5% faster or something like that, or run 5% faster. Things like that could be kind of cool as well. I'd also like to see the personal achievements you're proud of highlighted with the statues or plaques, like I was just talking about in the garrison back in Warlords. I actually did kind of enjoy that. So like one of my favorite things that I have is the camel hoarder. It's just having the rare camel from Oldham or whatever. I would be cool to have like a statue of like a camel or something like that and be like the camel hoarder. I that's kind of the stuff that would kind of give a kick to me. This isn't like a huge amount to do or anything. It's just kind of like a little bit of flavor that really feeds into the nostalgia of the game in a lot of ways, and some of like the bigger accomplishments maybe you made when you were a newer player even. The biggest issue to me adding something with this is that you need to make the players care about it without it feeling mandatory to do. So that's the one big thing that they get into an issue a lot of time, the Blizz devs, is they'll add something to the game, and then the scope of it will be big enough that they're like, well, we need players to engage with this. But the reality is you almost have to be okay if players don't engage with this. I think a ton of players will on their own, but it's okay if they don't, and you can't like force it on them. Anything that's forced should be completely extra, and like you can earn extra gold, or you can earn like extra pets or something like that. Like, and then that's the forcing of you to do it, but it's not actually forcing you to do it, and it cannot be tied to player power whatsoever. That should go without saying. So the housing would be for players who just love WoW and want to show off their accomplishments. And if you didn't want to engage with the housing, you didn't have to. And the way it would work, I'm sure you'd be like in your own like little instance or your own little thing. So it's not like a ton of people would be coming to see your stuff anyways. But there are ways that you could do that with raids or whatever. And I'm sure people would find all kinds of RP stuff to do and whatnot. But again, that's not really for me. So that's my wish list. It's quite a few things, but I think all these things would just kind of make the game better. If you notice, a constant theme is just having like more content in the game. So whether that's and I'm putting very like time on it. So like once a month, there's a cool holiday, the Dark Moon Fair. Keep adding to the Dark Moon Fair. Make that something every month. And then all of a sudden, when you have all this extra little pieces of content, you all of a sudden have something to do 3 or all 4 weeks of a month, even if there's like no new raid or no new patch coming out. And I think that should be the goal, and that should be everybody's wish for World of Warcraft. So that's about it for this video. I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel because it helps me out so much. Also, if you would like to support me on Patreon, I will put the Patreon link in the description below. Other than that, everybody, have a good one.